on the cusp of amazing new discoveries about the question of life after death. I think there's two things going on. Number one is that these shared death experiences, which I am sure it's been my policy for a long time not to publish anything until I'm absolutely certain that that anybody who is a sincere investigator, I mean anybody who really just looks into this out of curiosity and sincerely just wants to know and does an honest, straightforward investigation, is going to find these same things. And so that's one thing. And along with that, you see, comes an undermining of the standard sort of neurophysiological objections, right? Like we hear people say, they listen to these stories of near-death experiences and they say, oh, well, I think that's just the chemistry of the brain. As the oxygen tension to the brain is diminished, then it throws up this hallucinatory phenomenon.
So what is the difference? You're going to describe that?
Well, I would say this, that if you let's suppose somebody makes that objection that these near-death experiences are just the chemistry of the brain due to diminished oxygen, but then why would it be true, you see, that the bystanders have identically this same experience? You see, because there's nothing wrong with them. They're not ill or injured. There's no question of cut off of the oxygen flow there. So that's one thing, that this effectively puts a major stumbling block in the way of trying to explain this away as something just from the neurochemicals and the neurophysiology, the electrical discharges in the brain and so on. That's not going to work anymore. But concurrently, I think that we have whole new ways to think about this now, KG. And in regard to what you were saying, that you think that secure knowledge of this would change the world, I do know one way very specifically, that is that the human mind itself would not be the same anymore after a proof of a life after death. Mm-hmm. Because the very process of going through a rational proof of an afterlife would change the structure of the human mind. It would open parts of our mind that I think are there, demonstrably there, but that we have sort of shut down, or now that are kind of inhibited or idling. But I think that the rational process you'd have to go through to think this out, a proof of an afterlife, I am absolutely sure would absolutely change the human mind. Yes.
Yeah. It would fire whole new neuroreceptors, and it's like light up the cosmic brain.
Well, and I think that that's just right around the corner. I mean, I think the advances that are coming very quickly now in this whole arena of studying the afterlife will now start to focus on two things, I think. One is the shared death experiences. I mean, what do we make of that? I mean, it's startling enough to know that people who almost die come back with these amazing stories. And then on top of that, now we've got to add that we can know for sure that this same thing often happens to the bystanders. And then I think that there are major conceptual developments in the work that are going to give us an entirely new rational framework for talking and thinking about these things. So I am real confident that in 5 years' time, and certainly 10 years' time, that this whole field of investigating this question of life after death will be an entirely new sort of thing.
And I think, don't you think that just there are mass numbers of people now who walk around thinking at any moment anything can happen and I could be dead, or my loved one could be dead. I think that is more of a reality for people than ever. And I think that's one reason the rise in pharmaceuticals. People want something to numb or deal with the emotional pain of the not knowing. And so people really want this research. People really want to know. So I think that's also, there's a need there that's driving the research.
With the baby boomers, for example, are now reaching that point where they're having to face their own mortality. They're seeing their parents die, and this generation that were, post World War II, that grew up with, for the most part, free of the troubles that their parents' generation has had. And
we weren't connected by the internet where we knew everything instantaneously.
That's right. So I think a lot of factors are coming together now. Just the general, to anybody with even a grain of sense, I think, can look at the news and see that things are not well in the world. And
maybe that's what it needs to happen to make this transformation happen, because people won't choose it on their own.
I think you're absolutely right. This is right. We're being squeezed, I think, by world events and out of our. David Brooks, who is a columnist for the New York Times, wrote a very brilliant piece in the last couple of weeks in his New York Times column, and saying that basically what the trouble was, that the underlying problem of this society is the instant gratification mentality. People can't muster the mental courage anymore to face these really tough things. They want the charismatic figure to give them the
quick
answer,
fix and
the quick fix and so on. And look where that has got us. And but life is just fascinating. For me, I'm 66. I don't care about myself anymore. I've got two grown sons, 39 and 37, and they're doing well. And then also I've got a little grandson who's 4, and then I've got two little ones, aged 12 and 9. Both of my little ones were adopted at birth, and they're 9 and 12. So I don't worry so much about my grown sons. I don't worry about me a bit. I worry about the little ones and this incomprehensible situation that they're going to find, because
but don't you think their soul is like eons of age and came in with, do you think there's an unseen hand at work in orchestrating things, and that there's a wisdom there? Now, yes, the personality that's just here having this one experience, but the soul, I think, and I think that is what a near-death experience would give you that perspective. That's what you're talking about with this life review. You get this perspective. I think
that's right, and the information, I think, from both the. I got to say, I've never been so excited about any of my books before as I am about the one that's coming out now. And again, I'm not a commercial person. I'm not trying to plug a book, but this the glimpses of eternity is the one I'm talking about.
I think that would make a wonderful movie. I think that's a great name for a movie, Glimpses of Eternity, and I think people are right. They really need to have that kind of trans-dimensional perspective about themselves.
Yes. That's why I'm so excited about this. To me, a book is a book. I mean, but this has been something in my career that has a very, very personal twist to it, because I myself had one of these shared death experiences when my mother died in 1994, and at that time I had been putting together a group of people, and we were going to do a systematic study of these shared or empathic death experiences. And right at the time that we were putting together our work. It happened to be a Mother's Day of 1994. And so after we had our meeting, I called my mom and to wish her a happy Mother's Day. And this was on a Sunday. And I asked her, of course, how are you doing? And her voice was so cheerful, just like very, very upbeat and cheerful. And she said, "Oh, I'm doing fine, great." And that was my first response. Her first response. And then she just mentioned almost in an offhand way that the day before she had developed a rash, and that my brothers and sisters were concerned, so they took her to the doctor, I guess the emergency room or something, and he looked her over, and he didn't think that this was significant either. He just, he couldn't really find anything, but as a precaution, he gave her an appointment to see another doctor on the following Sunday, which would have been the next day after I was talking with her. And so the next day when she went to the doctor, she was given a diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and she died 2 weeks later to the day after the diagnosis. And my wife and I were there the whole time for the next 2 weeks in the hospital with her. And as she died, my wife and I had this experience along with my sister. My sister felt the spirit of my father, who had died 18 months ago, and I saw this light, and just very, very sobering experience and uplifting experience, and that kind of changed the tune of my curiosity about this. What had motivated me before to study it was being curious, but then after I had my personal experience, it kind of set my work on this on a different track for a while. But then finally I got up enough thoughts about this to sort of put it into writing, and I just think this is to me, this is a very significant period of world history, and
the most. I think it's the most, and
because of the enormous number of different factors that are coming together all at once.
Rapidly.
Big front.
Rapidly.
That's
it's just
right,
speeding up.
Rapidly.
Yeah, exponentially speeding up.
That's right. I noticed the Scientific American, which is a science magazine I get every month, is the current issue is on the cover it says "The End" is the name of the issue, and they're talking about this.
It is the end of an age. It is the end of a whole way of consciousness.
It definitely is, and also that nobody is able to figure out what's going to come up to take its place. And I just have a sense that this whole thing of shared death experiences and near-death experiences are going to play into this, being a factor, because as you were saying, people are really looking in this atmosphere of confusion that's gripped the whole world now. People are really turning their minds to thoughts of mortality and what comes after we die.
And birthing new thoughts, I think, birthing a whole new vision and looking at things differently. Because like you were saying, we need new visions. Where there is no vision, the people will perish. We need new visions of ourselves, what's coming.
We really do, and that's...
So is this like the cutting edge of in the field of near-death studies, or is there anything else that's new in the field?
Well, I think this is, right now, this is the
Do you think this proves life after death in your mind, or?
Well, I'm glad you said in my mind, because I am a holdout in the sense that not being raised religious, KG, this is a hard